Hello and welcome to the Hypnosis Academy. Today I'm just going to talk about one little word that will help you a lot with your clients. One little word, and that word is wood. But not the wood that you chop. This is the wood as in good wood. And so, I'll see you on the other side. So what am I talking about when I talk about the word would? Well, in grammatical terms, the word would is the conditional tense. What does that mean? That means that the word would, when we use it, I would do it if. Yeah. So what happens is when we use would, we place a condition upon that happening. Now what that means is I would do it if I had time. And then extend that further, but I don't at the moment. Okay, so there's a condition that we place on would, and then we normally say why it is that we're not doing it. Okay, some people talk about would as being a tense of inaction. It's an excuse tense. Right? So be aware when you're working with people, when they use the conditional, the would have, could have, should have, yeah, they're giving you excuses, and that's fine. But when you are working with somebody, you can use this conditional tense to your advantage. How? Quite often you're working with somebody. Let's say we use the love thing. So you do a little test with them and you say, right, I want you to say these words, I love myself. Tell me how true that is. And they burst into tears and they say, I can't say that. Why not? Because it's not true. Or they'll say, -5. 0. This is very common. Okay? They cannot conceive of the idea of loving themselves. They're so upset with themselves. They're so guilty. They hate themselves so much that what happens is you help them into hypnosis, for example, and you say, and from this moment on, you are going to start to love yourself. And that love is going to fill you up and you're going to feel, and okay, so you tell somebody that. Now, when somebody's at 0 or -5 or -1,000,000 of loving themselves, when you tell them that, their critical factor just starts going, no way, man. I can't love myself because I don't love myself. I don't deserve being loved, blah, 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 blah. So the critical factor then steps up, and no matter what suggestions you put into that person's head about loving themselves, they're not going to work because the person's too far away. They're too far away. So what you imagine, this is loving yourself and this is really hating yourself. When somebody's here, you can't just jump them here. You've got to have to do something to get them in little increments. Okay? So this is where the conditional tense comes in. Because you can say something like this. Now I know that it's been very difficult for you to love yourself. I know that things have happened that have made you not love yourself. Okay? Notice I'm mentioning love yourself, but I'm putting a disclaimer in that this is not about you. I know it's, you can't love yourself at the moment. I know. But I keep mentioning love yourself. Okay? Why? Because that's a repetition of what you want. But then you say, but I wonder, what would it be like if you could love yourself? If you loved yourself, what would life be like? How would life change? How would you behave differently? What would be different? Okay? So I'm using these woulds. If you could love yourself. Right. So what are you doing with the woulds and the coulds? The woulds and the coulds, especially the would, yeah? What that does is that makes the person have to think about the possibility of it. So they're thinking about it, if it were to happen, if you were to love yourself, how would that be? Right, so you're not telling them you've got to love yourself, because they would reject that. But when you're just doing a hypothetical. Look, if you were to love yourself, what would that look like? How would you behave with yourself? What happens is they then have to open the door to love, and they have to step through and they have to start imagining what life would be like if they were to love themselves. So that's how you get them to imagine it. You see, the way it works is this. We imagine something and then we do it. We rarely do something without imagining it first. We've got to be able to imagine ourselves. We've got to put ourselves in that position. We've got to be there. Okay? When somebody's going, no, 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 absolutely not, they're not going to be there. They're not going to go there and imagine. They're going to put a block on it. But when you lay it out, and obviously you can make it more and more hypothetical. Now, I know that this isn't the case, and so you needn't concern yourself that I'm going to ask you to begin to love yourself. So you can do some clever trickery with words. For example, you can say, now, I don't want you to love yourself for the moment. Okay? Now, what am I doing when I say I don't want you to love yourself? Right, I'm playing a dirty trick. It's a dirty trick. Why? Because we can't not think about something. You know, when you say don't think about a pink elephant, the very first thing you've got to think about is a pink elephant. And then not think about it. So when you say to somebody, I don't, for the moment, all right, understand that. Words are important. For the moment, what does that mean? Right now, but later on you're going to do it. So that's already a suggestion. For the moment, I don't want you to love yourself. That, now, consciously the person goes, okay, that's right, because I don't. But already you've placed that they've got to think about what it is to love themselves, then to not do it. Don't love yourself right now. Okay? And then, so you've put them at ease because they know that you're not going to make them love themselves. They don't want to. And then you use this hypothetical. But I just want you to play around in your mind and tell me, if you were to love yourself, what would that be like? What would be different? Now, if you think that's too big of a jump, then what you do is you say this. You use third person. Just imagine if a person were to love themselves, how would they treat themselves? Right? So put it third person. So they're not even talking about themselves. They've still got to go and work out what it is to love yourself. They've got to process that. And so what you're doing is you're kind of giving them these little steps. Use third person. You know, my friend John, I've used that so many times to tell people about stuff. You know, maybe stuff that's happened to me, but when you say this has happened to me, it loses a bit of traction with the person and go, oh yeah, we're talking about themselves. But my friend John or my friend Joanne, people love those stories. Hey, you know, my friend John, when he was younger, he had such a hard time in life. He couldn't love himself. He really, really struggled to love himself. You know, and it wasn't until one day, blah, 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 okay? And you say something, and he started to love himself. But you know, it only happened in tiny little steps. It wasn't all in one go. Yeah, so this is kind of ways that you can help the person get to the place of actually loving themselves without being overt, without saying, just love yourself, just get over it, come on, sort yourself out, love yourself, you're lovely. Okay, that doesn't work with people who are so far away from love. All right, so that's the power of the conditional and other stuff as well. I mean, you know, all of the time you're playing with people, you're manipulating them, you're saying things that make them think about something they don't want to think about. Yeah, and just, you know, that classic, don't think about this, makes them think about it, okay? All right, so you can try and use that would word just to help people do that little steppy stone across the river to get to the other side. Okay, hope that was helpful, and I'll see you again. Bye-bye.